This guy closed $17,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 4 months using Breakcold. He shared with me his offer, his pipeline, and his whole strategy to book meetings for his clients.
Yeah, so I'm Steve Brady. I go by Mr. Brady. It's kind of a fun brand name there. I've been called Brady in like every org, so I think it just sticks better than my pretty generic sounding name. And so I've been doing B2B sales in SaaS and FinTech for almost 15 years. The last 5 or 6, I've had 2 stints going from 0 to $1 million plus in under a year. One with a company called Interseller. We got that a little bit over 2 million, 15 people before it got acquired by Greenhouse. And then I had the pleasure of working for a friend of mine. I'll zip through this a bit, but where a lot of what I'm doing now came as a breakthrough was for a YC, some YC founders raised a few $1 million in like 2021, I think, to go build a bank in Canada, but we couldn't really cold email or cold call with canned spam. And we had a massive TAM of basically any small business owner was likely unsatisfied with their commercial bank. But we needed to have a lot of conversations. So we're like, well, how do we do that if we can't email or call? So we set up a system where 2 humans were running 25 LinkedIn accounts. We were using Expandy at the time.
Oh yeah.
And we weren't really that sophisticated in hindsight. Like now, it was the tactics and the content that we were doing, the prospecting was very basic, but the way we operationalized it and leveraged the tech was pretty cutting edge. And long story short, what matters about this was over 14 months, I had over 1,100 conversations. Almost every single one was started from cold outreach on LinkedIn. And that helped us get our initial wait lists, because we did this for 6 months before the product was even ready. Then we got our first 100 customers. And then all of that work helped us get like a proof of concept of what we'd built enough to go raise another 10 million. We did all of that in a year, and we couldn't have done it without LinkedIn. So I didn't really think much about it for a couple of years. I went back to consulting. I didn't want to be an employee anymore. And as I was doing like, fractional VP of sales or executive coaching and focusing on all the 0 to 1 stuff, I, like everybody, kind of realized where I grew up. I started off cold calling in a boiler room with like just a phone book, and I didn't even have a CRM really. It was Salesforce, but we just like recorded notes from a call. And then, predictable revenue comes around and it's the go-to. It makes a lot of sense, but it all starts to break just before COVID anyway. You started seeing declining returns, and AI has really just really broken it. Like this kind of says it all. Everyone's inbox looks like this, right? You still have to do it. It still works. It's just not automatic, right? It's not the only thing you do, and voila, you get customers. And then ads too, like still effective, but just your CPLs are going crazy while conversion rates are staying flat or going down. So if anyone's been paying attention on LinkedIn, especially if they're in our space, they've seen the success of like our B2B publicly, or Adam Robinson talking ad nauseum about how LinkedIn has been the linchpin of their strategy, both from a content perspective, for cold outreach, for using LinkedIn to drive traffic to the website, to then capture their detail. That whole system really, really works. So I kind of started thinking, maybe there's a way I can build a smaller version of what we were doing at Keep, and take a look at what are the new tools on the market for the prospecting, the enrichment, the outreach orchestration. And the real breakthrough for me that made all of this possible was Breakcold, to be honest, because I had a couple of former clients who were doing really well at the end of our engagement. This is the end of last summer. And they all said the same thing, 3 of them. They're like, hey, like this really works, what you've taught us, but I don't have 3 hours every day anymore to do all of this, to prospect, to send the outreach, to update the CRM, et cetera. Can you help me hire a VA to run this, or can you build some sort of system? So that's where I am today. And this idea came around in September. I didn't really even start pitching this until late October. I had one like case study or one test client that it didn't really work that well for. But it really started to click in November when I realized from that guy's feedback, hey, if you could make this $1,000 a month, like an expensive gym membership, I don't really need you to do the follow-up for me. But if you just build me the list and run all the initial outreach and set up a CRM so that I just come in here and every day I can see, oh, great, here are the people that have been messaged. Here's the people I'm in conversation with. Oh, I can even see when I last interacted so that when I jump in, I don't need to go to LinkedIn. Like, once I started seeing what they liked about what we were trying, I realized, okay, I think I can build an automated or mostly automated system that just gives busy founders in particular the ability to just come in here, have a bunch of extra data, have an integrated way to message people on LinkedIn or email. And since then, I've closed, I don't know, half a dozen clients. Yeah, about 17, a little over 17,000 in MRR. I got another 2 times that plus in pipeline that's pretty active. And if you want, I could give you another 5-minute rundown of how I can get this whole thing running so that you can get responses that people actually accuse you of like reading their minds.
Yeah, sure, with pleasure.
So I'm going to introduce a couple of tools here.
Yeah.
Caveat being, you don't need to use any of them. You can do this whole thing manually. Just why would you? It just takes so much time. And if you know how to leverage the tooling, it's you have to, there's a process that makes it valuable beyond the tools. So you can do it manually, but the whole core of this is you need to know, you need to be in the conversation where your ICP is looking for education, looking for solutions to problems they have, or they just want to network with people who are valuable in their space. So if you're not the one creating that content, you need to go and engage with the content that's being created, or at least be aware of it. So that's sort of the core of this. So people who think, oh, well, I don't have anything to say, or it takes forever to get my own content going, just go engage with other people. And so Alex Boyd is a really great follow on LinkedIn. He's got a tool called Aware. Here's the short of what you do with this. You just come in and instead of being at the mercy of LinkedIn's algo, you create your own feeds and you can categorize them. So like I've got clay experts, I've got founders who post, all this stuff. And so what I try to do most days, or at least a few days a week, is I come into my custom lists here and I don't log into LinkedIn. I do it from here. I can pick which one I want to go to or all the lists. And in a half an hour, I can get through and I can, I could bang out 5-10 pretty good comments. But I also get to see, every day what's hitting in that category, what's getting the engagement, where are the discussions taking place, and topically, what does my buyer care about? But what I'm really doing is once I figure out who are the people that are having the conversations, love that. Why am I always going to the plan there? Once you know from doing this, like, okay, great. When I comment here, it gets a lot of my like ICP either likes or engages with me directly or with, the other people who are in the comments. Then you can use Trigify, or there's other tools like Common Room can do this, but it's probably a lot more overkill for what most of us are doing. And all you then do is you figure out, okay, well, take Alex, for example. When I put him in here, I can now go look at this view, and what it'll do is it will go and I forget what the look back is, but it'll tell me, instead of what I used to do manually is I would go through these posts, I would go and look at all the engagement, then I would mentally filter out for who my ICP profiles are. Then I would manually go send connection requests. Now I can take all that data, it gets ingested, I just push them all into a clay table. And I can set this up continuously too. So every day when there's net new profiles, they get fed into here.
And by the way, if you go back to Trigify for a bit, and click on integrations.
Oh yeah, that's right. They just launched the Breakcold one.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming heavy.
Yeah, I've got beta access, so I don't know if this is available yet. But also to my point, you don't need Clay for this either. Trigify's got a data tool, and they've got some basic filtering, so you can just push that stuff straight to Breakcold. This is just what's so amazing about everything being so integrated today. But I go a little bit further because I'm lazy and I want to be smart and lazy. And I take all this extra data, so I know who's engaging how. I pull in some extra data from their person and company profile. I then run it through a Claygent to do an ICP test here. If they pass the test, they get pushed to a HeyReach campaign. And then I enrich it with email, blah, blah, blah. And then I built, and anybody can do this with your guys' great documentation from the site. You can use the HTTP API node from within Clay. And I've built a relatively simple, but it took a bit of strategy to figure out. I've just built a workflow where the certain data that I want, I go set it up properly in Breakcold, so that once all of this happens, I only want to push the folks I'm contacting into my CRM. So I don't have to go back and forth with, okay, well, once they come from HeyReach or Instantly or something, and I feed it into Breakcold, well, where's all this extra data that I have? Once it goes, oh, go ahead, yeah.
No, it's fine. I was just saying I see.
This one's broken, which is great. So I'm going to need to I think, one problem with lots of tools that have to connect with LinkedIn to be safe, right? You end up getting disconnected every now and then as, different sort of security rotations happen with proxies and what have you. But when this is normally connected, I'll show you the exact workflow I do here. And I don't even recommend this for most people. I'm sorry, go back to performance. I'll show you guys the exact campaign workflow. 90% of the time when I'm doing stuff, it's a simple path of, if not connected, send connection request, end campaign. I'm not trying, I want to get in the trenches, and I want to, either from Breakcold or within LinkedIn, I want to send a lot of one-to-one messages that are, unique to that person. And I just find that authentic approach works a lot better. But occasionally I can do something like this. So when they, if they weren't connected to me, we send a connection request. Where's the message? Oh, sorry. Once they get accepted, I basically sent a message that was relevant at scale, because I figured if everybody is following Alex, they're probably interested in his software, which I'm an affiliate of, and I know how to use. So I come in and say, look, I've been using it. Let me know if you want to trade any notes. I could also send that same message to people I am connected with. So it's a good reason for me to reach back out to folks that are already in my network in a way that feels like something I do. I check in and say, hey, I'm using a cool tool. Do you want to learn how to do it? And what happened when you get to the end, let's actually show it what it looks like in Breakcold. So once this guy got in here, Jason, where is Jason?
Jason Lok.
Jason Lok. So here's the first message. All this is, again, every single thing up until this point, I did not touch. I just set up exactly who I wanted to prospect from, what were the signals, what was the ICP filtering, what was the relevant message. The response was, I'm so confused. How did you know I'd been thinking about LinkedIn analytics tools recently?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's me speed running through the kind of stuff you can do now. And for me, before I had Breakcold, I was doing stuff, like I said, like this manually. But the worst part of the whole thing is, once these responses come, I don't want to be in here and trying to remember, or using a spreadsheet, or manually updating Notion, which I was using as a CRM for this. Now it's all set up. I know exactly what stage I'm in. I can assign tasks if it hasn't been, if I haven't touched Jason in how long? 15 days, right? So that's way too long. I need to come in here and maybe set up for today. Give Jason a ping. And I'll go ahead and I'll assign it to myself, not Michelle on my team. We want it done today. Great. So
Yeah, and with the coming in the integrations and automation, you won't even have to do that now. It's gonna be like after 15 days, automatically create a task.
so
But
stoked.
yeah, but yeah, amazing process, man. Thanks a lot for sharing, and for anyone listening to this case study until the end, like check out Steven's offer. I think he's really killing it, and he showed you everything, but to build it, it takes a tons of efforts and skills. So I guess like most people, like even myself, sometimes when I hire people an agency, like, yeah, I understand it, but I don't want to do it.
Oh yeah, totally, totally. And I disconnected prematurely, but let me just show you one more thing. I'll make
Yeah.
sure you can share it with people. Like I said, like I was doing this manually before. So like I'll give a link to or no, you can put this in however this gets published. There you
Yeah.
can do this, just follow this process for free and do it without tools. I even
Link
got
this
some
book out.
I've even got some scripts in here because I find that like video DMs work really well, but not if you do it with AI. So if
Yeah.
you want to see ones that like actually work at getting responses, I've got a whole thing. Just show up, carve out an hour, and walk through this process. And you can get pretty far with that. And then, of course, if that works, like I'm happy to connect with anybody and talk about how to build a more efficient system.